Okay, we're into an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff to have a really cool little preview for you guys from the brand Foliot watches. A little about them. They're an enthusiast-founded microbrand offering unique sports watches designed and assembled within the USA. And of course, hey, I'm out of the USA, so yeah, I can appreciate that. Some of you who are watching my channel not based in the USA, you could probably care less about USA production, but it is something that I value, so I do want to mention that. Now, in terms of the type of watch, this is a dive watch. Some key common characteristics and design when you're looking for a diver. Of course, you're going to want water resistance, typically with some type of screw down crown. You're going to want something that's tough, legible, with a dive time bezel, and a diver extension is always nice if on bracelets. This is their Scubanaut 200, and this is the white dial, and this is of course a pre-production prototype, but from what I'm told, this is pretty close to what the production model will look like. The Scubanaut 200 brings one of the most sought after functions from a travel watch, an independently adjustable hour hand or a jumping hour, to a diver, and basically they forego the typical GMT, and this the Scubanaut 200 provides this paired kind of a pared down approach to a travel watch, affording the ease of an independently adjustable hour hand without the added clutter of GMT hand or date, which I think is pretty smart. So that was another thing that made this jump out at me, and another reason why I did want to make sure to get my hands on this piece while I could. You can actually get these so there's different price ranges, of course, because this is pre-production, but the eventual full retail price will be around $7.99, which I think is more than fair, but you can also get it for much less, for $5.49 on Kickstarter eventually, which I think if you're watching this before full release and you get a chance to get it at this price, that is an absolute deal. So with that said, let's go ahead and zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, as you can see, very, very handsome. So let's get into the dimensions, which I think is one of the things that's really nice about this watch. It has a 41 millimeter diameter, a 12.5 millimeter thickness, which interestingly enough, it almost appears much thicker than that when you just kind of look at it, just because of how thin everything is. Yeah, this is 12.5 millimeters, and it wears even thinner on the wrist because this kind of sink in, and all you're going to see is that beautiful thin mid case with the extra beveling. Ooh, very nice. Lug to lug, 48 millimeters, but you can see that the lugs do slope down quite nicely. Even the male end links do a great job of sloping down to wrap around your wrist. You're going to get 316L stainless steel, all matte blasted, with some really nice high polish accents, whether they be these really nice case bevels or the teeth here on the bezel or on the bracelet sides there, even going down into the clasp. So very, very cool and very balanced, something that's very different, right? So I dig that, you know, people are doing something different, and yeah, I like when it comes together, right? Not different just for the sake of being different, but in just choosing a different concept, and really bringing that together to create something as a whole, that I think really, again, it just comes together and meshes really well. So getting into some more details here, the glass is a sapphire crystal, so you can see really nice. Also has a beautiful inner air coating, so you can keep an eye on that nice glossy high contrast dial. And then the bezel is 120 clicks. Ooh, very nice, very audible, very clicky. Ooh, yeah. Fast or slow, all good. Yes. Could be a little grippier. I mean, that is one of the points where it's polished, but still easy to grip and does the job. Absolutely nice little balance of smooth and clicky. Let me give it a quick little wipe so I can accentuate one of the cool features here. So you can see that glossy ceramic insert is nicely loomed, so when we get to the scenes in darkness, that's going to be great. But one thing I did want to point out was on the outer section of the insert, you can see there's actually a reverse countdown. So you can actually use this to either count down or the traditional setup for, for a dive time. So I think that's really, really cool as well. So there's two different ways you could use that. You see it starts at the 55, then it counts down 45, 35, 25, 15, 5 seconds, and then at 0. Or you could, of course, just turn it the way you would traditionally as a dive time bezel. And then you would know that, okay, let's say I go in the water. Hey, that's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, right? So very, very cool. So you can either set it to where you're following it or to where it's counting down towards a particular time. Let's say instead now you want to make sure you're going 55 minutes, right? So once you go 55 down to 0, then you're going to know that it's been 55 minutes, which again, it's just smart. So very cool, very different, but not different without a purpose. It actually kind of goes along with the whole theme of this watch, just being a little bit more out of the box in terms of its thought processes. Now, the crown is screw down and signed, and inside, although you can't see it because it has this really cool, nice etched case back with a polar bear, because polar bears are just cool, guys, especially polar bears with scuba gear. So you can't argue with that. I think that is absolutely probably one of my favorite things about this. That graphic is just so clean and just visually, it's lighthearted, it's fun, and I like that. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So this has a Miyota 9075 in it. So of course the hand stack technically is going to be a little bit taller because it's normally accommodating for an extra hand, being the 24-hour GMT hand, but they did get rid of that. So here it's definitely cleaner, less cluttered, and then of course what you can do is check this out. Without rehacking the movement or affecting your hours, I'm sorry, not your hours, but your minutes and seconds, you can just jump. So I'm in California now. Hey, there I was traveling to Texas and then New York. That's just cool. I like that. It's super easy, super intuitive, guys. And then when you don't have a date complication, it just makes it even easier and more intuitive. So really cool. And you can also see another cool little feature is you have a little collar there that's red. So that's nice. Again, little pop, little things that maybe people won't see, but you'll see and you'll know and you'll appreciate. So very, very cool. All right. So the 9075 Miyota, you got the jumping hour. It has a 42-hour power reserve, beats at 4 hertz or 28,800 vibrations per hour. So nice smooth beat rate, as you guys can see. The dial is a very nice glossy white dial with applied indices. Everything's blacked out for high contrast, but also everything is loomed out for also high contrast, but especially within the dark, which I think is great. They're using C3 Swiss Superluminova, which is a fantastic choice. 200 meters of water resistance or 660 feet, 20 millimeter lugs, which are great. Even again, the male end links do have a nice drape to them, so it is going to contour around the wrist well, especially if you do have a smaller wrist. 3-link bracelet setup, tapering down to about 15.7 millimeters, and then you're going to have this 18 millimeter 5-position toolless micro adjust clasp. Yes, very nice. This is the type of stuff people want. It has a Christopher Ward style where you just pull this ratchet here and then you can extend it and then you can push to ratchet in. And you can see even fully extended, you're not going to have a lot of unsightly anything protruding. Maybe at that full extension, you see that piece that connects, but you can go one more in and nobody would ever know. And of course, I like to just keep it all the way tight. And then if my wrist expands, I'll give it a click or two or anything like that. Is normally how I set it up. This is all nicely polished inside. Again, adding a little bit more fun contrast. But with that said, let's actually get it on the wrist to see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this wears just about perfectly. And although I do have a larger size wrist, it's actually quite round, as you guys can see, so it's not like it's super thin and flat. And accommodating to longer lug to lugs. So, of course, if I do get my wrist a bit too close to the lens, you're going to get some perspective distortion, and it's going to appear a bit larger than it actually is. But I did want you guys to be able to see the details on this in terms of that mid case, just looking quite thin and wearing quite well. So, really nice proportions. But what I like to do is lay my wrist nice and flat, then just tighten up the frame here, so you guys can get still a detailed look, but just a bit of a true aspect ratio of how this may lay on your own wrist. And you guys can see that it it does the job. It's just very nice. That taper is really, really great. Proportionally, I'm really digging this. It is just very cool. Of course, there's a part of me that wonders if they would have just done, you know, a full slim model, you know, how much thinner they probably could have got it. But again, 12.5 millimeters is not even thick. So my brain is just trying to reconcile that. So hopefully I'm, you know, able to get over it, because this is just really enjoyable to look at. I'm digging it a whole lot. And one thing I forgot to mention was that it actually also includes a secondary strap here, which is a Marine Sport elastic nylon strap. It's basically kind of that Marine National style that you're used to, but they've added this really cool buckle that is very similar to what you'd find on a fine link mesh, or maybe even like an old school Casio or Timex style clasp there, where it basically unhooks. And then now you're just going to have a bit more of a secure system there, where this can, you know, with a tool, you pop that up, you slide it up and down, you get the right size, you hook this on, boom. Oh, well, you actually have to hook it on, sorry. And let me just, of course, everything's happening while I'm reaching around a tripod. So in regular life, it's much easier, but you can see nice flip. And then it's just very well done. Looks very nice, very well finished in terms of, yeah, feeling like a complete execution versus something that's going to feel, you know, very thrown together, which, hey, these original straps were pretty much thrown together and improvised. This doesn't feel as improvised. This has, you know, it gives you a creative feeling of finish, which I can appreciate. So with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist, set up for some loom shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes. Look at that. That is fantastic loom. I mean, it is literally beaming on back to the dial itself and giving you even more clarity, which is very cool. One thing I always like to work in is a bit of a low light transition, because you're always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. Sometimes you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, guys. So very, very cool. You can see, of course, nice pop in the dark, but hey, check this out. Ooh, yes. I like that the dial is quite glossy. It always stays quite white, giving you nice contrast, so you're always able to read that ultra legible dial. But then where you're going to get some play is, you know, yeah, a little bit of the reflections off of that bezel insert, a little bit of the reflections off of some of these high polished bevels and chamfers. So it's just kind of cool. I dig it. Soft, uniform light coming off of that matte blasted finish. Very, very clean. Ooh, yes. Digging that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into closing thoughts. All right, on the wrist, very nice proportions, similar to something that you might find, you know, something like a Christopher Ward C60 Trident. Like, that is a great comparable in terms of the wear profile. So if you have one of those watches, you've worn those watches in the past, this definitely gives you a similar, I mean, nothing like it in terms, I mean, well, maybe besides the clasp, but I mean, everything else is, you know, it's very, I shouldn't say, but every part of this is very original to itself. But yeah, that wear profile in terms of the way the proportions kind of work out, I would say, yeah, it is kind of reminiscent of that C60. Now, in terms of model variants, these are also available with a black dial or a more traditional GMT World Time kind of World Diver layout with the extra hand and 24-hour scale. So definitely check the links down in the comments, depending on when the, not the comments, but in the description, because depending on when this video is released and when the Kickstarter's launch and everything, there might be more or less information available, and that also depends on when you watch the video. So yeah, check that if you want to look at more, but for me, the white dial definitely stands out. In terms of comparable models, there's really not anything like this currently on the market in terms of being a diver with that jumping hour capability, at least not in this affordable range, guys. $549 on Kickstarter, that's awesome. Even at $799 full kind of retail price, I feel like it's still quite a deal considering how feature rich this piece is and how original it is. So for me, guys, bottom line, you guys know I'm very selective about pre-production Kickstarter projects. But really, the Scubanaut was just too cool to pass up. I'm really looking forward to checking out the eventual production units, as well as just keeping an eye on the Foliot brand as a whole and kind of seeing what other innovative ideas they plan to bring to the market. Because I can tell just by experiencing this watch and some of their previous releases, although maybe I didn't get a hands-on with, but definitely saw that a couple of good YouTubers were able to get their hands-on with. They do things a little bit different, and I can appreciate different, especially when it's not just for the sake of being different, but where there's actually a completed thought and a completed vision and a full theme that is actually achieved through execution. So with that said, let me know what you guys all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.